Okay, I need to change the fuel pump on my CB400, 2011 model. Firstly, this is the first video I've ever made, so I apologise if it was amateuristic quality. Also, I have no mechanical training, basic knowledge, so what I'm about to show is just a guide, which I've learned from doing it myself once before, so I encourage you to do the same, learn yourself, take it slow. The reason I'm changing it is the pump got a bit noisy, which is an indication that it's going, and I'm about to do a long trip, so I want to make sure everything's okay. I've already changed one once, which I got from eBay, which turned out to be faulty from the noise it was making. I sent a video of the sound to the eBay seller and they sent me a new one straight away. So hopefully this one will be better. This is the pump that they sent me, like so. They came with a spare plug, etc. Last time I changed it I didn't need to change it. The one that I had on the bike was the same, didn't have to muck around with wiring, so all of those extra pipes and clamps I didn't need. I just needed the pump itself and the filter, of course. So to start with, basic, remove the seat. You have to remove these two side covers, undo that bolt. Okay, I've undone all those bits. Now basically I'm just going to lift this up, prop up the tank a little bit with something there. Basically just found another use for gaffer tape. Now there's this plug here which needs to be disconnected and taken out of the way. It sits on a little bracket. Basically there's a little bit up there, you pop up there and it just slides up the bracket. Previously I had trouble getting this plug apart. It looks like there's three little sections where you've got to lift it out off the little clips there to disconnect the plug. I used a little piece of metal to try and sort of get under there to prise it off and lift it out. I'll just pause while I take that out because I can't hold the phone while I do this. Okay, after fiddling around for about 10 minutes I've just found out there was a crapload easier way to do this. Basically that little spot in there, I was able to push something in, prise it forwards. It's difficult to do with one-handed, but there's a little slot right in there. So I pushed that in, pushed it in, twisted, and the plug was. Okay, so now under there is a little clip there. It's got little blue bits in there that you push in from either side, and you basically just awkwardly get in your hands there and wiggle it till you pull that whole unit off of that pipe up there, which basically disconnects that from the fuel tank itself. Okay, I got that off. Basically it just meant getting both hands under there and giving it a wiggle to get out. Can't really get a good shot under there, but basically underneath the tank there's another two hoses which you can see if you get your head around. You pull them two out, then basically you lift up the tank, slide it back, and it comes straight off. Okay, I took the tank off. These are the two hoses I mentioned that came off from underneath the tank. That's where they came off. This is the clip I was talking about, and I just basically want to take those 6 bolts out, lift the whole unit up, and it slides out gently. You sort of wiggle a little bit to get it out of the way. Just these are little tabs that hold the rubber seal from underneath. So just sort of be careful and gentle of the seal itself. You don't want to have to go and replace the seal if you're not too careful enough with it. This is the whole unit that I believe you have to purchase from Honda to replace the fuel pump. The only component I wish to change is that, which is obviously a lot more economical. I'll just go put this up on a bench workspace so I can actually start to try and remember how to pull it apart. Now I want to take this rubber seal off out of the way. As you can see with the tabs that poke through, they can only go back in one way, so it's pretty easy to work out once you get to that point of putting it back together. So I just gently pop the tabs out of the holes. A bit awkward doing it one-handed. As you can see, I've got the cardboard down here because you constantly get a bit of seepage, petrol coming out from all different various parts. So basically I'm just going to lift that up and gently slide it off the top. There's a few other things I will want to disconnect. I'm not 100% sure whether I have to do all of these, but I like to make sure everything's out of the way. There's a couple of wires that are screwed on there on one side and the other. Just remember which way they go in. This little plug came out by pushing in that little tab and pushing it up. I can't get it right out of the way as yet, but I'll just leave that sit there. And again, I don't know if I had to do it, but the other end of that wire is a couple of caps on there and a couple of bolts that hold the end of the wire in. I got them out of the way just so that I'm not trying to pull it apart and finding other things are attached. So I'll basically just go and undo those wires. And there's this hose that I think got in the way last time. There was only one little screw there to undo that metal bracket that held the hose in place. I took that right out of the way. I just prefer to have things clear and out of the way. I find it helpful to take a picture or write down what colour wire went to what spot. Basically I've disconnected the wires that I mentioned. It's one from that side, and little clips that came with it. So now basically, as far as I remember from the once before I did it, you have these two metal bits on either side where the plastic basically sides off the main housing unit, and the other part, which is the bit you've got to wiggle, etc. Like the hose goes up there and there's actually a rubber ring that goes in there, so it's sort of quite tight fit, so I sort of have to wiggle it and pull it backwards and forwards until that pops out. It did eventually come out quite easy once I got the right way of pulling up. Okay, I've pre-loosened it a little bit, but basically I just wriggled it backwards and forwards until that part came out there and that slid out. So we can put this unit out of the way for now, and this is the next step. This little piece, I have no idea what it was for. It was on there, and I'll leave it there. This clip off the fuel filter off there. Okay, so now there's two little tabs here which I prise off. Might need a little help to just pop it off. That piece there will slide out. There's a rubber seal there that comes out, and basically wiggle that out. You can see that part there has come out of that hole in there, and that's that unit out. And so now basically this unit here You can see, I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a little pin where that white plastic bit goes onto the pump. Just wriggle it off, it comes off. Basically that was on there. That's the pump itself. Now, I have, as I said, I have no idea what this extra mesh thing is there, but slide it off out of the way. And I come to this part, which is the fuel filter that I want to swap. So I basically have to get that off there. So yeah, I'll take that piece off there and then put the new one on. Okay, so I'm basically trying to gently prise the yellow bit off that bit to get that off. Just gently, bit by bit, don't want to scratch or bend any of the plastic. Once it's off that little tab there, you can twist it off. You can see that's the one I pulled off. It isn't that dirty, but I've only had it in for about a month. This is the one that I actually took off probably about a month ago. That I think the bike had done about 40,000 kilometers on that. So yeah, that's the one I took off, and this is the new one that I would put back on. Basically just goes on same way. There's a little tab there. It goes in that little hole there, so it's pretty foolproof. Just put it on, just sort of wiggle it to get it back in the hole and all lined up. Just a little bit of fiddling to get it in properly. I'm just using some gentle pliers just to sort of side by side push that on, just to help me a little bit. There we go, back on, ready to go back on when I put the whole unit together. Okay, this is the new pump. Just take the little protective seals off both ends. Fit this filter back on the little peg there. Let's check it seems to be on properly all the way. This little rubber seal is back on there. It actually sits on that little pin in there as well. Okay, so put the filter back on with the mesh thing on this time. I forgot it a minute ago. Basically you've got that clipped on. Put this rubber seal back in. You can see the little hole in there that matches that pin. Takes a little bit of filling to get in there. Give time to make sure it's all seated properly. And then once it's seated properly, slip this back on over those little rubber things and it should just sit the way it was before. Okay, yet again I had to pull it off again. This damn mesh thing I had on the wrong way, but here it is, back together. Filter on, mesh on, clips on, the rubber. The only other thing I need to swap over is this little part there that goes into the rubber seal up the top. Take that off the old pump and put it on the new pump. Okay, this little bit I just mentioned, just take note of which way it goes on. I made the mistake of not having a close look. Basically that little tab there will hang over the side of the pump, so it's there and it won't turn. Once you've got that on correctly, ready to try and slip this back into the unit, like so, lining up the pipe with the hole it needs to go in. Before I go too far, I'm going to get my little plug back in, clip it in. It's too hard to get in there otherwise afterwards. And then this came off, but so get that back on and get these two clips back in there down this end. Okay, now I'll admit that was a bit of a bugger to get back together. These little plastic tabs I had to sort of jiggle and push and make sure the seal was back in, make sure that seal up there was in properly. I eventually got them on, feels all tight and secure, all good. I'm happy with that, the way it was. So now I basically put it back on the body now. Firstly trying to fuel pump tucked in between the two prongs. One side goes in before the other, so at least you can get one in and line up the other. That's gone in. Now you're coming up to that bit getting pushed in, which is just a gentle push in fit. There we go, all clipped in. All feels good. I'm reasonably happy with that. Now I want to get this little hose bit back on, this little hose clip in there. If you looked at how it came off, it's not that difficult, but basically it's a little bit fiddly to get back in. I remember the hose was just gently touching that mesh. Don't know what either is, but I just like to put everything back the way they were. Okay, got all the wires back on as they all came off. Double checked everything. Everything looks to be in position, snug, tight. Now I just basically have to slip this rubber seal back on. Taking note where the tabs are, it's easier to turn around when it's up here from past experience. Poke the little knobby bits through the appropriate holes. Okay, got all them through, just pop them through gently. Okay, now it's ready to pretty much all go back together into the fuel tank, reverse way of we did before. Gently guiding it through. Bit by bit, turning it gently as we go. Lifting it, jiggling it, finding a couple of the screw holes, making sure the rubber seals pushed under and in the hole, and there we go. Now I will put all the screws on. I tend to like to tighten them a little bit opposite, so you're not tightening one side more than the other, but once that's all on, it's all ready to go back onto the... Okay, so first I put those two hoses right underneath in. Basically just had to get two hands under there and just feel around and get it in. Then I made sure that little clip was back in properly that goes back on that pipe. And then I'll put the electrical plug back together. One thing which I do is just double check, either look or feel that once you've jiggled around to try and get this little plug back on, because you've got to jiggle a little bit. I made sure that the other two hoses are still intact and didn't fall out. I think they did once when I did it previous time, so just double check everything. So now everything's back on. Now I'll pretty much just put everything back together, put some petrol in, and hopefully it starts. Okay, here goes. Sounds good. There we go. Success. Hopefully that helps. I think I would have liked a video like that when I did it the first time, but hopefully it was some help.